Welcome to the Boomer's Guide to a Vibrant Life with Vicki Washburn. Vicki and her guests will share their journey of the golden years and how they're creating a vibrant life. Topics will include family, fun, life, love, travel, and everything Boomer. You too can have the best of your vibrant life now. We are broadcasting from Global Voice Radio every week, and now here's your host, Vicki Washburn.
Good evening, everyone. This is Vicki Washburn with a Boomer's Guide to a Vibrant Life. And tonight my guest is Jennifer Haddow, who is the editor-in-chief of Wild Women magazine and the director of Wild Women Expeditions. Jennifer grew up in Newfoundland on the edge of Gros Morne National Park. An adventure in her own backyard might seem commonplace to some children, but not to Jennifer. As an adult, she came to a crossroads. She was living and working in Toronto in an office job. In 2005, she got really sick and attributed part of that to not having enough activity and nature in her life, and to being in an unsustainable lifestyle in many ways. She was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. Smoking and other toxic contributions perhaps contributed to this condition. She had an epiphany and decided that she didn't want to die in a wheelchair. She started asking questions of herself, how do I live? She already had an interest in alternative healing and powers of nature and decided she wanted to challenge herself to not end up in the worst scenario. Someone suggested that she go hiking on a hiking trip to Mount Everest base camp. She laughed out loud. She was having disability at this stage. She could not lift her arms above her head and was on heavy meds. She set a goal that she was going to get herself to Mount Everest and hike to base camp. I want to welcome Jennifer to my show, and I'm very excited to hear about all the things that you are doing, and it's pretty amazing that you could get yourself to base camp.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't something that I ever imagined that would be within my grasp, but I feel that you're sometimes when something just calls to your soul and you have that will, you can do things that seemed really insurmountable before. So that was my experience for sure. At the time I was really sick and having bouts of disability and walking with a limp. So the idea of trekking for a month to Everest Base Camp was not something that seemed very practical at the time. But I think some of the best things in life are kind of crazy, and they don't make sense, and you just have to follow your intuition and follow your heart, and I don't think it ever leads you astray. So it led me to Mount Everest.
Well, I completely agree with that. And I think, so many times we can overcome our physical situation with our mind, one, and with our heart and our soul, like you said, calling to us. If we want something bad enough, we kind of make it happen. Mm-hmm. And our body falls into place because we want it so bad.
Yeah, it's a big part of the equation for sure, and the magic of being in the natural world and getting yourself into a wilderness space where you really feel like you can listen to your soul. And sometimes in the lifestyle that most of us live in the city, we spend our days fighting traffic and being inside and sitting in cubicles. It's really hard to give yourself that space to connect and listen to what's calling you. So it's always calling, but whether we pay attention, I guess, is the big difference. So that's why I feel so passionate about helping women to get deeper into nature and create that space for themselves, so they can connect with whatever it is in their life that is whispering to them to grow and change and transform.
Well, and I love that you offer women an opportunity to connect with other women across different ages and from different cultures. I'm in Oklahoma, you're in Canada, is that correct?
Yeah, I'm in British Columbia.
So, just that in itself is a pretty fun thing, in my opinion. That's the best part of travel to me, is meeting the new people and immersing yourself in a culture that is foreign to you. And if you get to do that in nature to boot, it just makes it magical.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And, a lot of women feel that when they envision a challenge, something that they want to try on a new hat, or step into something that is maybe a bit on their edge, or move into the unknown, it feels, for a lot of women, it feels just more encouraging and perhaps safer to be in a group of all women. We're certainly not anti-men in any way, but we're absolutely pro-women, and there's something about having that sense of sisterhood and that support coming from other women to try new things. And it's something that I hear from a lot of women, that they thought they were coming on the trip because they wanted to go to the country or do the activity, hiking or kayaking or whatever, but they come back and say, well, I made some of the best friends of my life, and women that I wouldn't have bonded with in the same way in my regular day-to-day life. And so when women go on this transformative experience together, it really creates amazing bonds and friendships that, for a lot of women, they say is one of the best parts.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that really intrigues me is the opportunity that it offers for women, as you and I were speaking earlier, women that get to be over 60, I'm just going to use that number,
mm-hmm.
A lot of times are a little hesitant to take off on a trip alone. And the older you get past 60, the more women, anybody, not just women, but women and men, depending on their health situation, become a little more cautious about stepping out and stepping into some of those adventures. And one of the things that really intrigues me about this opportunity is the fact that you are with other women. And so some of that fear maybe would not be nearly as strong. It would give you a little more courage to step out there and do some of those things, because you are surrounded by other women of all different ages. And it just seems like there would be a safety factor built in.
Yeah, I mean, safe in the sense of being able to be a different way than our society encourages us to be as women, and it's very typical still. And I'll use myself as an example. I go on outdoor trips, and I I travel quite a bit with my husband and my brother, and I'll often still just maybe subconsciously defer to them to do the heavy lifting, or to, you know, take initiative and be in more of a leadership role when we're paddling a canoe. You know, I'll let the man do the stern and do the, you know, the stronger kind of role. And so there's something that's very exciting, I think, when you just change up that dynamic and have a group of all women. You'll see women rise to the occasion and take on roles that they might not take in an outdoor adventure kind of situation, where there are challenges. Sometimes they're very physical ones, and to see a group of women, you know, empower each other and support each other and cheer each other on and do the heavy lifting and take on those leadership roles. It's about safety, but it's really about empowerment. And the safety part of it is feeling safe to try something new and feel like you have that encouragement to do it. A lot of women don't feel like they have that opportunity so much, or they just kind of, you know, maybe get into some patterns around. When I did my first Wild Women trip many years ago, one of my worries was, I'm going to go into this week-long camping trip with men, and I'm going to be worried about how I look, and do I have to bring my lipstick, and I felt uncomfortable about being dirty and messy and kind of not having my just not feeling like I was going to have to think about all the sexual dynamics that come up when there's men in
Right.
on the scene, right? You know, I just felt like I'd be more comfortable, and I was, you know, it was great to go skinny dipping and and just, you know, really feel like I could let loose and feel like I could express myself in a way that, you know, if there was some men around, I'd probably be more self-conscious.
Right.
So.
Well, and you know, I think a lot of times when I say, you know, safety, a lot of times feeling unsafe is just more a sense of not having confidence, you know, not really knowing what to expect, or not being familiar with the territory, or just, you know, that whole something new dynamic can just make you feel a little off. And sometimes that makes you feel a little unsafe. And it just seems to me that when you're surrounded by other women, that doesn't come into play so much. Well, one, you're not alone. And two, there are people who understand how you feel.
Mm-hmm.
And the encouragement builds confidence. I can only imagine that after being on one of your trips for the first time, that many women come back with a newfound confidence that they had not had before.
Yeah, I hear it all the time. You know, a lot of women who come on journeys with us, I think, are connecting it with some kind of an inner journey, a process they're going through in their life. You know, a lot of the women who come on our adventures they're recently retired, or they're divorced, or they're widowed, or they've just finished chemotherapy, or whatever kind of major life change they're going through. And for a lot of women, it's an opportunity to stretch and feel like they can connect with that inner confidence that they need to go through those other life changes, maybe more emotional kind of adventures. And so sometimes when you go and do something challenging in the outdoors, you travel, you feel like you see yourself in a new light, it really changes how you feel like you can move in the world when you get home. And that was certainly my experience when I came back from the trip to Mount Everest. I felt confident to change how I was approaching my healing. I was very sick when I started, and at the end, I felt like it was the right decision and felt confident to stop taking the heavy drugs I was taking. I was taking a lot of really, really toxic medication that was making me even worse, I felt. So I turned more to some natural, more alternative therapies and embraced different kinds of healing opportunities, and it's worked out really, really well for me. It's been almost 12 years, and yeah, I'm very healthy and have no signs of disability and nothing. I feel like my disease is very much in remission. So yeah, I attribute a lot of the transformation that I was able to create in my own life to that outdoor adventure, to that travel, and just the confidence that it gave me to try something new and feel like, well, if I can do this, I can do anything. So that type of empowerment is really important, and it's something that we really emphasize on our trips.
I know this, wasn't a wilderness trip, but a friend of mine, just about, 6 months after my husband and I separated, we took a trip to Italy. And I had never been to Europe. I've been all over the Caribbean and all over the United States, but I'd never been to Europe. And we flew separately, and we drove across Italy, just the two of us, and then took trains, and we were there for 2 weeks, and it was quite an adventure. And I know just that experience of making the decision to, do the trip and then actually do it, and to travel across a foreign country that I did not speak the language, and to have as much fun and engage as many wonderful people as we did, and then come home, it gave me, I know, a great deal of confidence in my ability to maneuver through life without my husband, that I did not have before. And I'm a businesswoman. Most people see me as a pretty confident person, and yet there was this fear of doing that alone without my kids, without my husband. I'd always traveled with my family or my spouse, and I'd done some work trips and stuff like that alone, but for the most part, anything of any great adventure was done with family. And so it was a really empowering and humbling experience. Just maneuvering the hotels, because when we went, we were going to Venice, and we were going to get there on Tuesday after George Clooney's wedding.
Okay.
And the cost to try to book something in Venice was unbelievable. And so we had to wait to the last minute, and we literally booked our room on Monday to arrive on Tuesday. And a lot of people, that would make them very uncomfortable. And but it's just what we had to do, and we just knew we were getting on the train, and we would just find something when we got there, if nothing else. And so we just had to go on blind faith, and sometimes that makes traveling even more fun.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be trekking to Mount Everest. It's really about what makes you come alive, and what makes you feel freer. And I feel like that's our mission at Wild Women Expeditions, is just to help women with that liberation. And we think that the most powerful way to do that is to connect in our relationship with wild nature. And I think everybody would say that they feel most alive and most free when they are in some way in that connection with the natural world. Who doesn't love nature? So whatever way that we can get into that, but just the very act of traveling and moving into the unknown and feeling like you can meet whatever challenges come your way. It's enormously empowering in whatever other kinds of challenges you're facing in your life and your relationships. So it doesn't have to be about climbing the mountain, but whatever it is will only have an effect on the other things that you're trying to do. It's that kind of positive energy. It's that confidence, as we said. It's the inspiration. It's the feeling of freedom and independence. And even though women come on a group tour, for a lot of women who travel with us, it might be their first time going outside of North America. Most of the women who travel with us are from Canada and the US. So it might be their first time ever really traveling abroad and being in a very, very different culture. It may be the first time people have been in a particular kind of environment. We go to some places in the world that are very, very different than anything that people have seen at home. So getting used to different foods and different climate, and there's so many things that can invite women to feel that awakening within themselves. And that's really what we're about, is that awakening. And we feel like the tool that we use and the best path that we've found is to engage in nature and put yourself in those wild, inspiring, spectacular natural places in the world. So that's what we offer. And I think it is really transformational for a lot of women.
Yeah, just a time to breathe and find some peace and quiet and laughter. And I was looking at your magazine, and like I said to you, there was so much in it that resonated with me. I'm one of those goofy people that in spring, I'm down on my hands and knees looking at the little sprouts coming through the ground, and it just brings me such joy. And I had somebody say to me, it's that wonder and awe. And I saw that in your magazine where you talked about the wonder and the awe of nature and of the ocean. And I just thought your magazine was beautiful. And did I read that it was just your second issue?
Yeah, we've just launched it just a couple of years ago. So we've had a couple of issues. It's just an annual publication, but it really was about wanting to share those stories about what it means to us to be a wild woman, and the awe and the wonder and the aliveness that we feel when we're deeper in the natural world. And it's something that I feel is there's an awakening of the senses when you're in some of these places that can just be jaw-dropping. I remember a few months ago I was in the Grand Canyon. It was my first time to see the Grand Canyon. And so I turned the corner and I look out for the very first time over the canyon. And I remember my jaw literally dropped. And I just felt this, I just froze. I was kind of just stunned by the magnificence. I felt like I was on another planet. Suddenly I had never seen anything that grand, and it was incredible. And I just was standing there for probably a full minute saying, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Like, I really was in awe. And there's something that a natural wonder, like the Grand Canyon is certainly one, that can evoke that sense of the humility of feeling like there's something that's so much greater and more powerful than ourselves. And you might call it God, Mother Nature, whatever you want to name it. It's that sense of being connected with something miraculous and divine and mysterious. I think we all need to feel that in our lives. And you don't quite feel it when you see, the Empire State Building. It's impressive, sure. The Eiffel Tower, it's great. But there's something that's very, very magical about the kind of awe that you can feel in some of these natural places. So this is the story that we're trying to tell through the magazine, is stories of this kind of connection that women feel with the natural world and how it changes their lives, and exploring a lot of themes and telling those stories and trying to approach it from a different angle. For all those women who won't have the opportunity to join us on a trip, it's still really nice for them to feel inspired by some of those stories. So that was what we were trying to create with that.
Well, it's just beautiful pictures. It was just beautiful. So share with my audience how they can get more information about Wild Women Expeditions and where they can find your magazine and how they can contact you.
Yeah. Well, I always joke about the dangers of Googling wild women, because you'll get a lot of things. You'll get a lot of things that aren't us. You'll get hedonistic holidays for bisexuals in Las Vegas. You'll get a lot of stuff that is not what we are about. So yeah, if you go to our website, wildwomenexpeditions.com, and we're on Facebook, of course, so you can look up Wild Women Expeditions there. So you can connect, and there's lots of information about all of our adventures and a great community that women can be part of. So yeah, we're not hard to find, but just don't Google us. Or Google Wild Women and Travel.
So, and when is your next trip? What kind of trips have you got coming up?
Oh, well, we have hundreds of trips all over the world in about 25 different countries. So there's something happening all the time. We have horse riding adventures and hiking and kayaking and cycling and yoga trips and all kinds of outdoor fun in all across Europe and in the US. We have some adventures, lots in Canada and Africa and Asia and South America, and we're just all over the place now. So world domination.
All right.
But yeah, there's really a lot on offer, and a lot of our adventures are super beginner friendly, which is nice because you don't have to be experienced in. You don't have to be super fit. You don't have to know how to ride a horse even. You don't have to ever have kayaked. A lot of our trips really do welcome women who are, just average, want to try something new, want to learn. So we give them that opportunity, and then we have some more advanced kind of adventures that are more physically difficult, but we have a really wide range. And some of our trips are backcountry camping, and then some of them are pretty comfortable. We have some trips in Europe, for example, where you're staying at beautiful boutique inns and you're eating in restaurants, and so there's a really wide range of comfort styles of travel as well with us. Yeah.
Well, I think I'm going to start saving my money today. I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
So I just want to thank you for sharing your vision and some of the adventures that are available. And I just want to thank my audience for listening in tonight with Jennifer and I, as we talked about wild women and all the wonderful things that we can do as wild women. And if you want to connect with me, you can connect with me on Facebook at My Life Redesigned, or on Twitter and Instagram. And my website is VickiWashburn.com. Well, thank you again, Jennifer, and I look forward to hearing more about your adventures in the future.
Thanks.
Good night, everyone.
host of The Boomer's Guide to a Vibrant Life. Connect with Vicki at www.globalvoiceradio.com. Tune in next week for another edition of The Boomer's Guide to a Vibrant Life on Global Voice Radio, where your message and your voices are heard.